Today we're back on the 670 and we got something really exciting in store for you today. Dad?
Today we are going to make a gas tank.
So basically the gas tank's going to fit underneath the seat there, but in order to fill it up, we need to have the seat on a hinge so it folds up just like that, where we can then access the neck of the tank. Now, we're not going to be using this frame as we mentioned in our old video because this is prototype number 2. We're going to be using prototype number 3 over here because this here already has the chain tensioner and the swing arm is a little different between prototype 1 and 2. So what we need to do right now is take this frame off, or we can probably just put that frame on that little lift there and just put this to the side now. So here is prototype 3, and what we need to do is have the seat kind of hinge up like this. And so what we're going to do is use little hinges like this, and luckily they're pretty low profile, and so we just need to tap the seat so they actually fit and then figure out how we're going to get these attached to the frame. So these seat pans here are actually made out of metal. Now this is a prototype seat and we put material underneath, which I actually like and think moving forward we should just put material. I think that looks better than painting it black, and also then it just like is even more resistant to wear. Now obviously it's going to add a little bit more cost, but I think it's worth it. And then yeah, so we're going to take this hinge, and I think we're going to have 2 hinges, so one on here, probably one there, and then what we need to also create is a latching mechanism. And so what we have is something like this, and so this will be on the other side. And we've already cut out kind of a little bit of the material where it's going to sit, but it's going to kind of sit like this. And so what you're going to do is reach under the seat, and once this is screwed in, this latch will go like that, which will then unlock itself from a tab that we're going to need to weld on here. And so that will allow us to basically have a latching mechanism, so the seat, once it's down, it will be locked in place. But we need to start by screwing these in first where they need to be.
Yeah, that will make a mark there for sure. Yeah, look at that.
So why don't we do that one first, just in case, and then this one if it adjusts.
Yeah, okay, so let's do this one first.
Okay. So one thing we discovered with the 670 is that the batteries that we thought could work, which are these guys right here, are just going to be too small for this battery, which is unfortunate because the battery box that we're designing and we will be offering are going to be that size. However, the battery we need for this guy is probably closer to like this size of battery. Would you say, Dad, this one here? Like something like that?
Or maybe in the next size up.
We still hope that the battery box idea for the front will work for something this size, but if not, that's another challenge that we're going to have to figure out so that we can actually turn this over. Because there's no point in building something if you can't ride it. I do still think front will work, but we also don't want the battery to be hanging too low where if you go over a bump, then it hits the battery, right? So anyways, that will be another problem for another day, but we know we will figure it out. It's possible. So let's get back to this.
Okay. Yeah, see how it's synced.
Well, with the bolts it would work. Okay, so we have this idea where we were originally going to use the hinge, but the problem with the hinge is the fact that every time you lift the seat up, it actually wants to touch the side of the frame, and then it pushes the seat upward, which then makes the hinge move. And so the problem with that is you can't bolt the hinge into place because it needs flexibility to move. And so if you're not familiar with Honda Ruckus, we're going to mimic what they do, which is basically they have a piece of rubber like hose that goes around the frame that then allows the seat to move freely, and nothing is actually bolted to the frame. Yes, it'll be bolted to the seat, but not to the frame, and that will secure it in place. So we're going to try to mimic that. We may eventually just buy the Honda Ruckus ones just because they'll be like exactly what they need to be, but we're going to test it here with the rubber that we have. We can cut probably a strip like this, because this is 1-inch tubing, and so it needs to be long. But why don't we try cutting a slit there, see if that's long enough. Okay, let's see if that'll work. I guess this has to go like this.
Is it tight?
Not super, super tight.
Oh man, this doesn't come back over.
No, see, that's not good. It needs to go in the same spot every time. So, okay, how do we accomplish that? So we hit a wall with the seat. Unfortunately, the hinge that we got is too small, and when we try to lift the seat up, it wants to pull the hinge up, which won't work if it was screwed in. So then we tried the hose clamp with a rubber, and same thing, it causes the rubber to kind of shift, which means every time you go to close the seat, it's not going to line up perfectly, and it's going to be pretty much a nightmare to get in the right spot every single time. So what we want to do is order the actual ones from Honda Ruckus and then make them work with our seat, because the way that they're designed is they give enough clearance for the seat to bypass the frame so that you can open and close it with no issues. So we're gonna leave the seat like that for now until we get those parts in. However, we can still go ahead and start designing the gas tank, because we will make the hinge work. It's just not gonna work right now. So what we're gonna do is go back to the other frame with the engine, because we need to see the clearance to go ahead and start mocking up the idea we have for the gas tank. We're gonna use cardboard for now just to kind of mock it all up, make sure it fits perfectly, and then we can go ahead and bring that to either Tom or somebody to go ahead and actually make. So let's swap out the frames. What we're gonna try to do is basically fill in as much as we can,
Ooh,
but
yeah, I see what you mean.
work around. Yeah, see, it can't just be a square box.
Yeah.
What we're gonna try, I think, to do is make it, I think, it's taking me back to geometry. It's a rhombus where it's like, it's angled and then it goes back, but then it matches the angle of the frame. And so I think we should start by tracing that.
Yeah.
Give or take. It's not gonna go that low, but at least we now have that shape. Next time, X-Acto knife, I think.
Easy.
Quicker. Okay, let's see.
Yeah, probably.
There is a pretty decent width,
Yeah.
but I think if the tank was around somewhere here, I think that would probably be a good size overall. And then what we could do is round the edges here,
Yeah.
so that it kind of, A, for airflow, but B, it'll look better. Maybe I should just design it in Fusion and then just 3D print the whole thing.
Yeah, that might be a good idea too.
So why don't we draw a line roughly where we think,
Okay, so where we're gonna cut it?
right, because I don't want to move stuff if we don't have to. But let's say somewhere around there, and hypothetically somewhere around there, but we'll measure it so it's the same distance. Okay, and then go 4 inches that way, just roughly there.
Yeah.
Then draw a straight line. I think I would want to have it rounded there, but
Round it.
like kind of, I still want it to kind of come up. Like this piece was too short, but I would like it to come up, but it would have to be out of the way of the choke. Like let's say hypothetically it comes rounded, and then it kind of has that look to it. That's why here it's just like, I don't know. I don't like straight edges. As you can tell, our frame has no straight edges.
Yeah.
And so I think having...
Oh, will definitely look nicer, right?
Yeah. Yeah, and the thing is, like, for anybody who's not running the 670, we're going to build a gas tank that fits in this area perfectly. But the nice thing is, if we do this and it works well, anybody who gets the 670, now we have a gas tank purposely designed for our frame.
Yeah.
And you don't have to worry about getting something custom made. We'll already have it for you, which is pretty cool. Let me go mock this up in 3D. Let me take this with me, and then we'll 3D print it. So I've never really shown you the behind the scenes of what it takes to design and come up with a new part for a mini bike, or how to actually design a mini bike from scratch. And so what I'm gonna do is hop into Fusion 360 right here, and I have the MBK1 already pulled up with the 670 in there. And so this will give me a really good idea of where to start and how to design our prototype for the gas tank. And so if this is something that you wanna do, whether it's designing your own mini bike from scratch or coming up with your own parts and accessories, well, you're gonna need to learn how to model in 3D. Yes, you could make things out of cardboard and bring it to somebody, but if you really wanna do this seriously, you're gonna need to take the time to learn. Now, it probably took me about 6 months to learn Fusion 360, where I was able to do basic stuff, but now being over a year into the program, I feel pretty confident that I can almost design anything that I want, or I can figure out how to do it. So with that being said, if you have any questions about designing parts, let me know in the comments. As you can see here, we got the MBK1 set up with the 670, which is exactly like we have downstairs. And we pretty much have everything we need to get started. So what I wanna do is, again, I wanna design a gas tank that fits in this area down here. And so what I need to look at are a couple different things. What are the angles? What are the curves? I'm gonna probably start with a box, and then I'm gonna basically shape it into what I need it to be. And so if we look here, we have, again, it kind of angles outward. And I think it would be cool if it kind of comes out and then slowly it goes more narrow at the front so that it matches up with the tube here. I basically just want to follow the frame rail so that it matches perfectly. So again, the best way to start any new design is with basic shape. So I'm gonna go ahead and make a box and then put it where I want it to be. And then
I'm going to refine it so that it roughly matches the design that we want to have for the gas tank. Now, this will take a little bit of work, just kind of condensing certain corners and areas, but I think right here looks like a pretty good start. Now that we have it roughly where we want it to be and in the right size, we're going to go ahead and shape it to match the curvature of the frame. So I'm going to create a plane that I'm going to use to cut off material in order to shape the tank exactly how I want it to be. Now the next step, I'm just going to round some of the edges just to give it even more shape and to have a better understanding of what it could look like once it's done. So now that the tank looks exactly like we want it to be, we need to hollow it out and create a way for us to actually be able to mount it to our frame. So I'm going to just create 2 platforms, put some holes in it, and even thread them so that we can bolt this tank to the frame.
So now that I have the gas tank mocked up on the frame and I feel confident, I'm going to go ahead and put the actual design of the gas tank into a separate program, which is what I need to use in order to prepare it for 3D printing. So I have it here in Prusa Slicer, and what this does is it takes your design, and once you click start, it's going to go and make it into all these different layers. And as you can see, every single layer that it's going through represents it being 3D printed. So this is a layer, and then this is a layer, this is a layer, and there's so many different layers here that it has to make in order to turn this idea into a physical product. And there we have it. We're officially done designing the test gas tank to see if it will actually work with the 670. So I'm going to go ahead, click print, and we will be back once this is done. After 3 full days of printing, we have our gas tank prototype. I'm so excited to see what it looks like on the 670 and if it will actually work. Let's get it installed. Because this is a prototype, I didn't bother making the complete top just because if I know this is the height I need it to be, then I can go ahead and model around that. But I just want to make sure I can get it onto the frame, which is why we have those 4 bolt holes there, and it should just sit in place like that. Probably just going to do 2 bolts for right now, just to see how it looks. Now again, we are going to be drilling out the holes in the seat here so that they can fit on top of the bolts. So the seat's going to sit up just a little higher than it will once it's done, but this should give us somewhat of an idea of how it will look. Let me see. You know, maybe I should put 1 more bolt in there just to get a good sense of where the seat kind of will look, because I don't want that to throw me off. So let's just put this in. But there we have it. Again, the seat is going to sit too high because it's not bolted out, or we didn't drill out the holes for the bolts to fit in. But let's have a look at this. Right off the bat, I do notice something that I think I want to change, but let's have a look before I make any final decisions. Let's actually center the seat there. Let's see. Yeah, okay. So I think that's looking pretty good. The only thing that I'm noticing right off the bat is originally I thought this curve would be a good idea. I thought it would look good, but aesthetically, when I look at the frame, although there are a lot of curves in it, we don't really have too much rounding like that. Yes, this is probably the only round curve we have. The rest are these really a little bit more sharp angles. And so for me, I think that this should match. I think it should match kind of going across. Now we are going to lose some of the fuel capacity if we cut that off there all the way across. However, I'm also noticing there is a little bit of a gap here. And so if we basically cut this off straight to have that line flow with the gas tank and then actually push the gas tank further back, we can have it come like there is some room there. So I can have this push back a bit. Now I do notice there is some interference right here with the frame. And so I might have to make the rear side, this part of the frame, or of the gas tank, sorry, a little bit more narrow to bypass these bends in the frame so I don't hit the tubes. And that will allow me to bring this frame, or sorry, the gas tank out a little bit more. Now also too, it's not gonna be flat like this. I'm actually gonna be rounding this edge so it'll be much more seamless, kind of like what I've done on the edges here, which you can kind of see. So it'll be rounded like that. It won't just be flat. And I think that looks pretty good. And in fact, I might round it so it reaches just the bottom of this so it doesn't stick out at all. So I'm gonna probably reduce it by that much of my finger. But again, I might just make it fill in this gap, bring it out a little bit more, and really just match the frame. If I can make it really match this shape here, I think that will look solid, and then it'll be rounded and it fits right underneath the seat there. I'm so excited to see a gas tank, even though it's 3D printed, installed on our frame, because that means we're one step closer to getting this done for the Pull Start Picnic. Now, as you know, this is prototype number 2, and it's not the frame we're going to be using for this complete build. We're actually going to be using prototype number 3. However, there's a few brackets that we've modified in between prototype and production, and so we got to cut off the old brackets on prototype 3 and install the new one. So let's get to it so that we can get the frame ready for paint. Give us an update. What are we doing right now?
We're gonna weld some new brackets on.
So what happened? So we had our prototype 3 frame,
Yeah.
but what are we doing here?
We're putting on production brackets.
This was our prototype 3 kickstand bracket that we had, but obviously, as you can tell, it didn't look as good, but it was just to work. But these are the production brackets where it's actually bent out of the steel that's used for welding the bracket on for the wheel. And so this is nice and bent. So this was just temporary. This is welded on, or this is bent and built into it. So when we swapped that out, there was also an issue with the other bracket up here where we originally had to cut the hole bigger to readjust it to align it better with this, because we built this frame without a fixture. And so now that we have a fixture, yes, technically we're not using a fixture here, but it's pretty easy to line this all up and make sure we're good to go. With that being said, yeah, we basically cut off this bracket. My dad welded it while it's tacked on right now. And then we're gonna weld on this one. Then once everything is secured, we're gonna go ahead and add some weld to the back of each bracket just to make sure it's 100% certain and secure. And then we'll go ahead and send this off for sandblasting to then get it painted, because we wanna have this painted for the Pull Start Picnic. This is the first time that I'm ever gonna weld something. Okay, I'm going a little too fast. But okay. You guys wanna see my weld? This was my dad here. So this was like one of my first attempts here, which I moved too quickly, and you can kind of see, but it was relatively smooth. But then this was the one I just did here. And then so that was the last weld I did there. I think it's pretty good. It should hopefully hold. But we're gonna take all of this off now and just to see if it actually stays in place.
Look at that.
And it moves. Look at that, we're good. All right, so now we just need to weld a little bit more on the outside here, because I only put a little tack there. So we'll weld that whole section. We may need to clean up his weld a bit, and then we might have to add a little bit more. But realistically, if we just add more weld on the inside, we should be good. Like we'll make up for the welds on the inside.
Yeah.
With a little bit more practice, I think I'll be able to get the welding down. I think it just takes time, patience, and practice, basically. So excited about that. I'm glad that sometimes you just gotta try it. And for anybody interested, we're actually selling our MBK1 as a frame kit on our website, which is linked in the description, or just go to mantini.co and you can go ahead and place your order. We're only gonna be building 25 in our next batch. We've already sold a bunch, but there is still some available. So if you're interested, head over to our website, linked in the description, and order yours today before they're gone. Oh my gosh, that's the best weld you've ever done. Did I inspire you?
No.
Look at that. Real quick, if you want to continue to follow our journey and see more posts behind the scenes, head over to our Instagram or our TikTok account. Both are at Mantini Motors, and you can check out some more behind the scenes and really cool content that we post there. So head over there. They're both linked in the description as well. Holy crap, this looks really good. I mean, there are little gaps and stuff, but that's just natural when you're welding, but like you clean it up really nice. You know what, I think we're gonna have to hit this with the sander, the tube polisher that we have. Yeah. But, I mean, the insides doesn't matter as much, but it looks pretty solid. Okay, so how do you feel? You thought we weren't gonna be able to do this ourselves without Tom, but look.
Yeah.
What have you done?
We'll see when I take it for a ride what happens.
Well, like, you seriously, like, you welded most of this.
I welded all the way, top and back and front.
So Tom, when he did it, he welded here, here, and here, and then he did it on the inside as well, here, here, and here.
Yeah, no, I feel confident enough that this will be fine. Powder coat should fill all this. I just can't wait to take that out for a little ride.
I know, we're finally getting there. We basically need to take everything off of this frame here to put it on this one. Now there are actually a couple other things that we need to build. So we are working on a way to make the seat. Originally, we were gonna have it where the seat was gonna flip like this. That was the idea, but we came up with an even better idea where the seat will flip at the front like this, using a hinge, a much bigger hinge. So this is a 3D mock-up of the bracket that we've created where it, as you can see, it actually bolts underneath the frame. Like, it doesn't even take up any space there. So the gas tank is still seamless, but it comes out like this, and then we're gonna have a hinge on it like this. Now this is plastic, so it's very flexible, but if we did this out of metal, it shouldn't move. And then with a hinge like this, it will go on the front of the seat, and that will allow the seat to go up, and then it'll come back down. And then for the back, we're gonna have a little latch like this. We're actually gonna make it a little different where it's more like a loop that the latch fits into rather than this little stud that the latch fits under. And so ultimately, this is one bracket here, and then we have that bracket that will keep the gas tank exactly level, and then that will allow us to actually mount the seat without having to use these 4 bolts. And then what we're gonna actually do is on the bottom of the seat, the way that it works is we have these threaded inserts. So what we're gonna do is drill them out so that the heads of the Allen head bolts will actually be able to fit in the seat, which will also prevent it from moving back and forth, left and right. And so it will just keep the seat exactly where it needs to be. And then we're gonna latch it closed right here. So yeah, we're really excited about that. It's gonna be a really awesome way to have the seat on there and have the gas tank underneath it. Really excited about that. Tom is making those for us now, which we need before we can ship everything out to get painted, because ultimately we want to make sure everything gets painted the right and same color. So with that being said, I think we're pretty much done for right now. We just need to grind a little bit more and then get this to a sandblaster or a paint shop that can also do the sandblasting. But yeah, what do you think?
Yeah, we just gotta figure out a color now.
Let us know in the comments what color we should paint it. We do really like blues and reds, but there's a million different versions. So if you have an idea for a blue or a red, let us know in the comments. Or maybe we do a blue and a white and a red theme, more like an American style bike. Even though we're Canadian, my dad loves the American colors.
Hey,
so
that's
maybe
a good idea too.
Maybe we do an American bike, because realistically, I don't know what screams freedom more than a 670 in a mini bike.
An eagle.
An eagle.
Eagle brings freedom for me.
An eagle brings freedom, but realistically, a 670cc mini bike painted in blue, white, and red might be something we can do. Let us know in the comments, or should we go Canadian, just go red and white, or just red, or just blue? Let us know. There's so many options. Write it below. Thank you guys for watching. We'll see you in the next video.